Hello and welcome to the podcast, The Way of the Sensitive. I'm your host, Cara Wild. This is a podcast for those of us who feel called to live in a different way, to create a new society where diversity and uniqueness is celebrated, not shamed. We're the channels of the light, co-creating a heaven on earth upon this beautiful planet. We're here to live and achieve our soul's goals in this lifetime. To us, it's not woo, it's real. Calling all the magic makers, the mystics, the empaths, the sensitives, the starseeds, the autistic ones, sometimes sidelined, sometimes scapegoated, but we know that we're here to create new pathways in the one mind, because it's not just about traversing alternative dimensions, it's also about landing and being fully alive in this gorgeous world. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 17 of the Way of the Sensitive podcast, and thank you so much for tuning in again. And if those of you that are new, if this is your first time, thanks so much for taking time to listen, to tune in. I hope this serves you. And thanks for everybody who emailed me answering the question, where do you listen to the podcast? It was been really interesting hearing where people listen to it. Some of you while you're cooking, some of you while you're out driving, and some of the feedback I've been getting about the impact that the podcast has been having has really thrilled me, because it's why I started the podcast in the first place. And for those of you that are new and don't realise that the podcast idea was not just mine, but it came from the ancients as well, and everything's just flowed and been divinely timed. It's one of the best things that I get to do in my day. I really like it. So thank you again for tuning in. And this podcast is about not fitting in, because we're not supposed to fit in, because we're designed to belong on our own terms, because we're creating a new way. And this podcast really fits into that deepening of our understanding of our own authentic blueprint, so that we can be who we truly are beyond conditioning in physical reality and have the impact that we intended to. So today's guest is Roz Isbell, and Roz is a human design specialist. She's also a Reiki level 3 practitioner. She's here to talk to us about human design, and she discovered it almost 2 years ago. And this woman lives, eats and breathes it. This is definitely her life's work. And we met on a Facebook group because we were talking about having sensitive children. And Roz is passionate about helping parents to understand not only their own design, but that of their children's too, because she truly believes that having this precious information means that they can support the children to be the best young people and adults they can possibly be. And I know that this came on the back of her own personal story of parenting her daughter, before they realised that she was highly sensitive, and no understanding of what that meant, and the challenges that brought up in parenting, and how Ross's understanding of sensitivity and her daughter's human design and her own human design just completely transformed her parenting. And if you listen carefully, what I'm hoping that you'll get as well is maybe a deepening and a more of a compassion for your own inner child, for your own past self that really was probably around peers and protectors that really didn't understand your sensitivities, and to have compassion for that child that just, going out into the world every day was a huge challenge. So there's lots of good stuff about being a sensitive, and one of the free resources on Roz's site, which I've done, is to have your own kind of mini human design template done, report done. And Ross was kind enough to send me over mine last week, and I have resistance to anything that tells me that I am like predetermined and in any way. But this was fascinating. What came up in my chart, I deeply resonated with it. And one of the things that is in my design, I have been looking at as a character flaw rather than an innate way of being and potentially a strength. And even that, just that one thing has completely transformed the way that I look at this particular strength of mine, and I'm going to be working with it differently. So there's links in the show notes to sign up at Ross's website and to get your own mini report. I strongly encourage you to do that. If you love things like Myers-Briggs testing or any personality test, you're going to love this. And then come over to the Facebook group, and I think Ross is going to join us in there, and let's compare notes and let's have a look and let's see what we think and what's going on. It's just fascinating. Ross also talks about how there's gates of sensitivity and how this can help us understand ourselves from a point of view of empaths. A fascinating conversation about empaths not having emotions and only feelings. This kind of, I was like, what? No. But that kind of deepened my understanding of what it's like to be an empath. So lots of really, 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 really juicy stuff in here. And finally, human design was channeled. And that story is interesting for those of us that walk with a foot in both worlds. I think we're always interested in hearing about how channeled information came through. So I hope you enjoy it. See you in the Facebook group. Hello everybody, and welcome to the podcast The Way the Sensitive. And today we are very lucky because we have got Ros Isbell with us. Hi Ros, thanks for joining us today.
Hi Cara, how are you?
I am very well, thank you. So you're over in Australia at the moment. It's night time for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's getting on. It's really nice.
Oh, well, thanks for staying up for us. Ros and I connected in a Facebook group. We were discussing sensitivities, and then she introduced me to this concept of the human design, and I became quite fascinated with it. And when I was reading Ros's ebook, which I'll tell you about later on, or we'll talk about it later on, about how you can sign up for it, it was saying all the things that we agree with on The Way the Sensitive, about how it's important that we tap into our divine blueprint, how the only thing that we're supposed to do while we're here is show up as ourselves, and how that can be incredibly hard to know what that is and to act on it. So Ros, do you want to start off by telling people a little bit about human design, what it is and how you came across it, like what your story is?
Sure, I'd love to. Well, human design, it's a personality assessment tool. I mean, it's not a very good descriptor, to be honest, and it's very difficult to describe what it is. But essentially, it's like a map that is created from your birth data, and it tells, or it holds the information of the truth of who you are, of who you were born to be in this particular life. And as I said, it's based on your birth data and where you were at the time of your birth. And it's just stunningly accurate. The information that this chart holds is just unbelievably accurate. And I was introduced to it a couple of years ago, and it had a hook on me. And now that I know as much as I do about human design, I actually know that it's part of my life purpose to interpret this information, because it's not easy to find information on human design that's accessible for everybody. It's just to give you a little bit of a history on it. It was downloaded by a gentleman back in 1987. He was on leave, on sabbatical in Ibiza in Spain, and he got this download. He was out one night and this light hit his head and basically crawled back to his cottage, and he was held hostage, as he puts it, by the light for about 8 days, or by the voice. And during this time, the information was basically imprinted into his cells. And
wow.
I know.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's stunning to think of what he had to go through to get this information. But then he had to spend a lot of time actually putting it together and working out what the chart, or the body graph as it's known as, would look like, and how all of the energy centers would be placed and all of that sort of thing. So he pulled all that together, and then he spent really the next 23 or so years out selling it to the world, you know, literally and figuratively, trying to get people to see what this work was all about. So I've only been on the bandwagon, if you like, for the last couple of years, but I know that one of the reasons that it hasn't taken off, because the information in it is stunning, is because it is quite difficult to understand. So, you know, that's why what I'm here to do is to make people able to access the information a little easier than they otherwise would be.
Well, it's interesting because we were kind of having a little bit of a pre-chat, because Ros was really kind enough to do I don't know what you call it, like a quick chart, or
it's called the body graph, but
right.
We'll just call it the chart.
Okay. And I remember from reading your ebook that a few years ago, a kind of friend of mine came over from America and stayed with us for a while, and he'd just come across it, because I was wondering if this might get in the way for some of the listeners, so I want to say something about this. He'd just come across it and said he was, what was the one that you mentioned to me before, like he pushes things away? You know, yeah, he was kind of like pushing things away, and he kind of repels because he's too strong or something, he'd got told. And at that time, this was like 5-6 years ago, I was like, there's no such thing as, like, you know, we're so fluid and we can create our own reality, and we haven't got any, like, that's rubbish. I don't believe in any of that. But then it's like what he was saying about himself, I'm thinking, actually, that's how I see you. That's really quite true. And then when I had a quick look at my chart, one of the things that has been really bothering me, well, not really bothering me, but it's kind of like, I don't know how to work with this part of myself and it feels wrong. 5-minute conversation with Ross this morning, I was just like, oh, that's what it is. So I don't know if this is for other people, but anything like star signs, you know, sun signs, like we've kind of been exposed to the like daily newspaper version, or anything that constricts me and tells me I have to be in a certain way. I've got an automatic rebellion against that. But actually for me, this brief introduction to it has answered some questions and has really helped me understand myself a little bit more. So maybe, I don't know if there's anybody in our audience that are kind of like, well, I don't know, it's just, I'd encourage you to just, you know, have a go, because it might just give a few missing pieces. Obviously, you know it a lot more in depth than.
Yeah. And look, there's 5 different energy types. So there's 5 different strategies that we work with. You know, the 7.5 billion people on planet Earth today are all one of those 5 different energy types, and each of them are here for a different, and each of them have a different strategy that they need to use to make decisions that are in alignment what it is that they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
They all have a different way of using their energy. So it's really, it's a whole philosophy. It's big. You know, there's so much information that human design can help you with. It's not just telling you, you know, that you're good at this or you're wise in that area. It tells you how to live in alignment in a really simple way, when you have the information explained to you by somebody who can decipher it.
Yeah, for sure. It's complicated. So what? So how did it start to affect your life once you've come across it? Then what changed for you?
Well, to be honest, the reason why I chatted with you earlier was, you know, in the Facebook group, was because my daughter, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and for the first 8 years of her life, my partner and we really battled with her sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't actually know she was sensitive.
Yeah.
We didn't know a lot about being a sensitive person, to be honest. We really thought that she needed to toughen up. We thought that, the fact that she cried every time the tiniest thing went wrong, even though it might have only been for 20 seconds, it was a character flaw. It was something that we were doing wrong. We thought that her sensitivity to pain was a problem, and she'd always been really sensitive to foods, food additives, preservatives, that sort of thing. So we battled with it, and we were trying to build resiliency into her and make her stronger and tougher. And when I came across human design, of course, the second person's body graph I drew was my daughter's.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And it showed me that she had the gate. There is a gate of sensitivity. So just to give you listeners an idea of what I'm talking about when I say gate.
Yes, because I've seen the pictures. Yes.
Yeah. There's 64 gates in the body graph.
Right.
So it looks like a triangle, and it's got a whole lot of shapes on it, and the shapes are joined together with lines, and those lines are represented by numbers, and there's 64 of the numbers on the actual fingers. By the way, it's actually in my chart that I do that. I have to tie my hands behind my back.
Like, go for
it. She has the gate of sensitivity. And not only does she have the gate of sensitivity, but it's actually very high up in her chart, and it's a driver for her. It's what drives her.
Wow.
So that just made so much sense to us. It made so much sense that she was like she is, and she's not going to change particularly. So that got me thinking about what I could do to help her to be the best possible sensitive person that she could be, and explain to her that now I understand why she's like she is. And honestly, I mean, we've always been incredibly close. And I don't just say that flippantly in the way that all mothers and daughters are close. We are very, very close. And a lot of that has to do with her sensitivity. And I'm also sensitive in a particular place that makes me vulnerable to her energies, which is kind of lovely.
Wow.
I have been able to tell her now that her sensitivities are who she is, and that they will make her an outstanding adult. And that and I don't say this to her, but I do say it to other people, if anybody ever dares to challenge me over her resiliency, now that I know and understand her chart, and there are a couple of other things in her chart as well, but that's the main thing, this particular sensitivity gate. If anyone ever dares to challenge me about her resiliency or say that she needs to be more resilient, I'll punch them in the nose. She is so resilient. Every day she walks out into the big wide world, she's bombarded. And I know that your listeners will understand this. But as a parent who doesn't have these issues, who doesn't to call them issues, who doesn't experience these sensitivities, this is so empowering and so helpful. And I feel like I can be so much more of a support to my daughter than I could have otherwise been.
Yeah. And not blame yourself as well, not blame our parenting, which is a default for a lot of us. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I say to her, I know that your childhood is going to teach you a lot. And I don't think that she has a particularly easy childhood. I know that home is her sanctuary, and we really have a lot of trouble to make sure that that is the case. But I know that she's going to be an incredible adult because of this sensitivity, and because of the fact that she now knows innately that she's not odd, that she's not different. She might be different. We're all different, but that this is a gift.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my job. Now, I see that as my job, aside from helping other people with their own human design, is to help her and support her to become the best sensitive adult she can be.
And I think, you know, you raise a really important point, because whether it's almost like, you know, I and nod about going down a autism diagnosis route with my children or not. And initially I was just like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not into labels. But then they joined mainstream school and they needed some kind of, it's exactly like you said, you know, when they started getting challenged, it's like, excuse me, their brain is wired like this. You're asking them to be something that they're not. And it also helped me a lot as a parent just understand, because their sensitivities, I'm sensitive and I'm an empath. My youngest is an empath, definitely, and so much more sensitive than me. And it's all expressed in different ways. So I've had to learn a really more nuanced experience of what it means to be sensitive in this world. And supermarket shopping, you know, things that other people take for granted every day, they just don't happen the same way in our house. Or we have to, like now, because we've got the language, my youngest, who is 11, can just be like, I can feel overwhelmed coming, I need to do something, you know. So it's teaching them alternative strategies, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And without that knowledge, like for you, it came through human design, and we really want to know more about this gator sensitivity. But for you, it came through that, and for me, it came through, you know, a different route. But it is that empowerment of, how do I best support and navigate this world as I truly am and as I'm meant to be, rather than and teach the world something new. Like it sounds like your daughter's sensitivity is going to be her superpowers. God knows what she's going to unleash on the world and teach the people. We need a gentler world, don't we? You know.
And it's interesting that you talk about, you know, autism and learning disability, those sorts of things. Human design says that they're the children of the future. You know, they are here to teach others, and their communication is mutative. You know, this is not a fault. This is not something we should be concerned about, other than to say that we should be concerned about the way other people perceive it. And the school system is, and I don't want to get on a rant about the school system. I think it, you know, at least here in Australia, it does the best job it can under the circumstances of being underfunded and that sort of thing. But it does treat everyone the same. It has to. At least it treats everyone in a way, in a standardised way. And there are very few people that fit into that mould. Well, no matter where you fit on the spectrum, you know, if you put everybody on the spectrum, everyone fits somewhere on it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just having that knowledge and that understanding that we all have our own strengths and our own areas of wisdom, and you know, and we have our areas where we're perhaps better off to steer clear of, or that, you know, there's a good reason why we're not interested in detail. It's not part of our chart. There's a good reason why we skip steps and take shortcuts, because it's part of our chart. So yeah, all those sorts of things, they just understanding that makes us so much better at parenting, you know, little ourselves. And I think parenting is such a it's I don't mean to state the obvious, but there is so much responsibility involved with it, of not doing more damage than society can do.
I know. I keep saying to my kids, I'll pay for your therapy, don't worry, you'll be all right. And one of my friends summed it up really well the other day. She was just like, parenting my children are my source of greatest joy. And the source of my greatest got like fears and concerns, and they take you along that spectrum. And one of the things that I think is useful, if we could dive into this, I don't know if there is anything more that you can tell about this gator sensitivity. And also, when I think about like some of the clients that I work with who can struggle with overwhelm and don't want to feel all the feels, and why can't I just be normal and a bit more hardy and all that kind of stuff, and there's things that we can, you know, they can do to build up that resiliency, so, like you say. But hearing about other children and how they are sensitive and how it's part of their unfolding. I hope that the people that are sensitive that are now grown-ups can look back at their childhood with like more compassionate eyes, because I think, you know, there's a lot of people that I work with or that I talk to that just didn't fit in at school. They didn't belong at school. They couldn't kind of figure it out, and they were shy, and it took me a long time. Like, I can be quite bold.
Out the window instead
Yes.
they wanted to be out in the school garden.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting in front of a desk, or
Yeah.
you know, they wanted to be at the zoo looking at animals or whatever it happened to be. You know, school wasn't the place for them.
Yeah.
It's hard. That's the way society is, isn't it? And
It
that's
is.
the whole issue that we deal with every day.
Yeah, and I think it's useful to just know that you know, you're different for a very good reason, and that there's plenty of us that felt like that and did that. So is there anything else that you can say about that gator sensitivity?
Well, that one in particular, it's often associated with a love of animals, and particularly a love of nature and that sort of thing. But there's other places as well. There's other places that sensitivity shows up. So when you look at the human design chart, I was saying before that it's got a whole lot of shapes all over it. It's actually got 9 shapes, and those 9 shapes represent the 9 energy centers, and they're loosely correlated to the Hindu chakra system. So there's 7 body chakras, there's 9 energy centers within the human design body graph. And when they're colored, or if you look at the body graph, you'll see some are colored usually and some are white usually. The white ones that are coloured in are where we're defined and where we experience energy in that particular area. So let's say we're talking about the throat. If your throat is coloured in on your body graph, it means you have a defined throat. The throat is the centre for communication. So it means that you communicate in a defined, consistent way. Now, if your throat is white, then it means it's open, and it means that you communicate in many, many ways. It means you can perhaps make funny voices. It means that you can imitate people. You're very good at, what's that word when you, it doesn't matter. Yeah, when you imitate people.
Yeah.
It means that when you write, you can write in a variety of different styles. So you could write funny pieces, you could write deep and meaningful pieces, you could write, you know, very thoughtful pieces. Whereas if it's defined, you really can only write in one style, and that'll be, neither's better than the other, it's just the way it is. So where I come across people who only have a couple of their 9 energy centers defined, and let's say 7 or maybe 6 of the energy centers open,
Right.
these people can be very sensitive.
Right.
Because where you are open, where your energy center is open, is where you take in other people's energies and you amplify them. So you can imagine that if out of your 9 energy centers, only 2 of them are defined and 7 of them are open, you're taking in energy in 7 centers from all around you. And this is very overwhelming. It's where you know, quite often just want to shut yourself up and stay inside, not go out, because whenever you go out, you get hit with a barrage of energy. You were saying that you're an empath. You're an emotional empath. I hope you don't mind me saying about your chart.
You can say what you want about my chart, that's fine.
You have, so you don't have a lot of energy centers open, but you have one energy center in particular open that does make you sensitive. Your emotional solar plexus, which is what we call that particular center in human design, is open, and that means that you are taking in other people's emotions all the time and you're amplifying them. So when you're sitting next to somebody who's perhaps feeling sad or going through grieving or is angry or is low on their vibration, essentially. You take that in
Mm.
and you amplify it, so you feel even worse than they do.
Mm.
So what we say to people who have this configuration, the same one as you do, when your solar plexus is open, we say you've got a couple of choices. One is you either say, not mine, not my energy, this is not my emotion, because when you're emotionally open, believe it or not, you don't actually have your own emotions. You have feelings. I'm not trying to say you don't have feelings, but any emotions you experience aren't yours. They come from outside. And you amplify them. They feel like they're yours, but they're not. When you say, when you're feeling bad or down, not mine, put your hands over your solar plexus region, which is where the solar plexus energy center is located, and just push it back. That works, and that's a really good trick. The best and most effective thing for you to do is actually get up and leave.
Mm.
Get out of the energy, get out of the aura of that particular person. 15 minutes is all it will take. So let me go back to the parent-child example again. Say you are, as you are, Cara, you're emotionally open as a parent, and one of your children has a defined solar plexus. You will pick up on their energy, and the solar plexus, when it's defined, goes in waves, ups and downs. There are 3 different types of waves. We won't go into that now, but let's say they're low on their wave, one of their waves. And most people who are defined only have one wave. I'm really lucky, I have all 3. So technically speaking, I should be all over the place all the time, but I've got some other things that allow me to hold most of it inside, which is, thank goodness, for the people I live with. But if you've got a child that's emotionally defined and low on their wave, as a parent, you're taking in their emotional energy, and you not only are feeling as bad as they are, as angry as they are, or as frustrated as they are, or whatever it happens to be, you're actually feeling more so than they are. So it's kind of like we say, don't put the emotionally defined child in the naughty corner, because they're not being naughty. They're really not. I mean, they might be being naughty. I am a parent. I do know kids can be naughty, but they're not doing it deliberately. They're not having their emotional low vibration deliberately. It's who they are. And to take that away from them is quite a dangerous thing to do. But what we say is, don't put them in the naughty corner. Take mummy and put her in the naughty corner, or put mummy in the spare room.
I'm going to chill out. Yeah, that's my corner.
Go and get out of their energy.
Yeah, for sure.
15 minutes if you can. And this goes for anybody. It doesn't have to be kids. This goes for anybody. Just get out of their energy, 15 minutes, discharge that emotional energy. You can come back again, start off with an empty solar plexus. And then it'll start all over again. And what I do is I help people with ways to increase that vibration. And I know probably a lot of your listeners already have their own ways of increasing the vibe that they're feeling and making themselves feel better emotionally. And it's a really good thing to do if you happen to be emotionally open with the emotionally defined people in your family.
Because I think if I was to take a guess, there would be one of my kids that's probably quite like, I know you're not saying defined in the same way, but my guess is, he's quite fixed and rigid and just like that, and I just kind of, it's the opposite of me, and I can just kind of go like that. And one of the things to add about the empath stuff, something that I came across that works, and if you want to share more about raising vibration, please do. If that's work that you just do with clients, then absolutely respect that. But I've learned to say, I don't want this information right now. I don't need this information right now, and I don't want this information right now. And that doesn't always work, but sometimes that does. And even just going into supermarkets, if I've been doing a lot of channeling and I'm really connected and I'm really open, then I can cope with information coming in a lot more. I don't know if you find that in your clients, but the more that you allow yourself to be open and transparent, the easier it is to just let it all kind of, go past you. Yeah. But even looking at newspaper headlines is enough to send like shockwaves through me sometimes when I'm feeling like that, because I get all the information. I can feel like just if somebody sends a piece of post to me and they've been angry while they've writing it, I can feel that as I pick it up. So for anybody else listening who thinks that they might be a bit crazy, because we are so sensitive, especially the healers that are listening and the other channels that are listening, it's kind of normal for us. And I think the more that we can be okay with it, the more it can just flow through us and not get stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, I use essential oils.
Yeah.
I love essential oils as a vibrational tool, and I think they are incredibly effective, not just for yourself, but for the people that you're closest to, people that you're living with. And I'm obviously here, I'm talking specifically in a family situation. You can't sort of get on the train and burn your diffuse essential oils, but wearing them might help. You never know. Like crystal essences, actually holding on to crystals. Music for some people is such a tonic, such an amazing way to raise vibration very, very quickly. Music actually shows up in the chart as, I can tell the people who are passionate about music from their chart, and I can tell the people who will respond best from their chart. So those sorts of things, anything that makes you feel good, getting out in nature, getting into beauty, going to the art gallery, that anything that you can look around you and just feel that positive vibration, because we all know that when we're in a high vibe state, around us can't help but become to take on the higher vibration as well. And the same thing works for your environment if it's on. So I love essential oils because I can just grab my bottle and put it down.
Yeah, rose is my go-to. I think rose.
Rose is absolutely. Yeah, but frankincense and orange, and I mean even lavender is really good for at least calming you if that's what you feel you need. But practically every essential oil will work because they're almost all vibrating at a higher resonance than the human body is. So just use your intuition, pick the one that feels right.
Absolutely. And I don't know if we've got time. Oh, it's 11:22, but I'm really, really, really fascinated by I'm not sure about this, about what you said about those of us that are empaths, and I mean, I'm curious from a selfish point of view, but also I know a lot of my listeners would benefit from this as well, so I can get away with it. When you said about we don't have our own emotions, we have feelings, could you say a bit more about that?
So everyone has feelings. Everyone has feelings of love and possibly hate and dislike, all of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But when it comes to emotional feelings that are generated by vibrations, you as emotionally open people, and 50% of the population are emotionally open and 50% are defined. The people who are defined have these emotional waves. So there's three types, and seeing as you've asked the question, I will tell you that one of the waves is a very high, low, high, low, high, low, and that's what we call an individual wave, and it's based around how the emotionally defined individual is feeling. Another one is sort of a very sawtooth, up and down, sort of slow rise up, and then they fall off the cliff down to the bottom, and then quickly they start to rise up again. So it's sort of like that. I do see how I use my hands.
Absolutely, it's brilliant.
And then another one's quite a little one, which is what we call the tribal wave, and that's very much based around what's going on within your family or your close-knit tribe. The sawtooth one's based on the collective, it's based on your community. And it's the vibration that you are at goes up and down. That's the nature of it. And that's the nature of the emotionally defined person, is that they have to have these feelings. They have to have these vibrational changes. Because if they didn't, then can I say they might as well not be around. It's just not the way that their energy works. You don't have, as an emotionally open person, you don't have those same vibrational changes yourself.
Right.
You will be vibrating emotionally at the level of the people that you are around.
Wow.
If you go and sit in a forest with nobody else around you, and you just sit there and you don't try and plug into anyone else's energies, because I'm sure most of your listeners know that, you know, we can tap into energies anywhere on the planet if we choose to. If you go and sit in a forest and there's no one else around, you won't feel anything. Whereas I will still be going through my emotions, but you won't, because you won't be in the aura of anyone else's emotions. Does that make sense?
It does, and it sounds like, so there must be a different definition from the human design point of view. Emotions must mean something completely different to feelings then. So, because I know when I go into a forest, I can feel, or into kind of nature, I can still feel feelings, as like what I would call emotions, I guess. I can still feel feelings, but there's a tranquility and it's quiet. It's really quiet. And I have to go to nature to, like, if I go into a city, it's so psychically noisy. And sometimes that's a good thing because it's full of people who are like on a high vibe, and sometimes it's not a good thing, but it's psychically noisy. Is that the kind of distinction?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes a lot more sense. All right. So is there a like a payoff? Is there, you know, like, what's the reason? Like, in terms of, there's always a perfect unfolding of the divine blueprint. And so if half the population are like you and half the population are like me, what is it that we do co-creatively that is for the good of the whole with that difference then, do you think?
So the emotionally defined people tend to be the artistic, creative types who are consistently creative. Everyone's creative because we're all taking in the energy, but not necessarily consistently. So some of us are taking in consistent energy and some of us are taking in inconsistent creative energy I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
The other thing is, when you are emotionally open, you are designed to make decisions in the moment. When you are emotionally defined, you are designed to make decisions over time. So for you, Cara, when you go to make a decision based on your strategy, and human design talks about what the strategy is, when you go to make a decision, you need to make a decision in the moment. If you wait to make a decision, then it most likely will not work out for you. On the other hand, as I said, am emotionally defined. If I make a decision in the moment, I will very likely have buyer's remorse, or I will regret it the next day, or a week later I'll say, oh, why did I do that? Why didn't I wait? I'm actually designed to wait to make decisions. And this is part of the vibration. It's part of the high and low vibration. So it's all, you know, we talk about it being all about emotions, but it's also about decision making and about strategy. So it's a little more complex than just that. But the emotional part of it is is what makes you as an emotional, it's what makes you an emotional empath, the fact that you're really open.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, when you describe, obviously, we're just using that one thing as an example of the differences, and obviously, there's a lot more. It's really fascinating. The more I hear about it, the more fascinating it is, and it sounds like that polarity between me and you, for example, in that one area, brings a stability. You know, if you put us two together, there's something stable there, isn't there, for the universe?
Absolutely. And the chart is full of what we call electromagnetic opportunities.
So now I'm interested.
Oh,
now
yeah.
I'm interested.
And most of us, I mean, most of us are attracted to our partner based on what they have that we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we join up, and you can overlay charts and do relationship readings as well to see where you hook up, figuratively, and where there's potential, no, I won't say potential issues. I mean, everybody is designed to go together in the end, but you know, where there might be some things, some red flags to look out for, that sort of thing. So look, it tells so much, and
It does, doesn't it?
There's other areas in the chart comes in as well. There's an area right in the center of the chart that's where our soul lives, and when you're open there, you feel other people's souls. Yeah, that's
wow.
And that's one too.
Yeah.
So there's so many opportunities for sensitivity showing up, but not just sensitivity. Practically everything. It's a lifestyle.
So, well, I mean, a relationship one could save a fortune in like divorce courts or like therapies if you got it ahead of time, or take it to your therapist and this is what we need to work on.
I cannot tell you how valuable it is to understand why somebody that you've been living with for the last 10 years is like they are.
And I know from what you sent me over that your free resources that you have available on your website are just are really good for anybody that wants to just like I would say dip their toes in, but you actually get quite a lot of information too. So do you want to tell people about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I actually have I don't call it a service, but what I do is I'll actually draw up people's charts. I'll raise charts for people if they provide me with their birth data. So I need your birth date, your birth time, and your birthplace. And when I say time, it needs to be as accurate as possible, because the chart data can only be as accurate as the birth time data is. And sometimes it changes quite quickly. You know, it can change. Some days the chart doesn't change at all, and other days it'll change many, many times. So as accurate as possible. But if you don't have accurate birth data, if we do a session, we can kind of rectify it back to find out exactly what it should be. But we can get fairly close. So yeah, if people go to my website, which is www.findyournaturalgroove.com, one word, and just click on the Human Design tab, you'll see there it says get your free human design chart and ebook. You get the ebook sent to you straight away, and it just explains some of the basics of human design and how the types work, how the 5 different types work, what their strategies are, and a little bit more about human design. And I will also raise a hand-raised chart for you, which will be individualized. It usually takes me 24 hours or so to do it, to get to it. Sometimes I get to them straight away. Just depends on how busy I am. And I'll send it back to you with a couple of lines about what your chart says.
I think that's an incredibly generous thing to do. I found that really useful. I'd highly recommend listeners go and have that. And I said I had that, I really want to know more, but even that on its own was fascinating. And I'll put all the links in the show notes as well for people. So I had this image I just have to share when you were talking about like how accurate you might need to be on your birth time. Sometimes it's like I was imagining there's like a soul's waiting for like the alignment. It's like ready, go, like dive in.
Seriously, it's not as silly as it sounds.
I know, right? Everything's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very much so. There's no mistakes. Everything is as it is absolutely supposed to be.
Yeah.
And, it's based upon where you are at the time that you leave your mother's body. That's what your human design chart is based on. It's got nothing to do with your name, numerology, or anything like that. It is purely where you were at the time of your birth. So where the planets were at the time of your birth. That's actually something I didn't mention at the start, and just for your listeners' interest, it's a conglomeration or an amalgamation, if you like, of the chakra system, the Chinese I Ching, East and Western astrology, the Jewish Kabbalah. Did I say Kabbalah? Kabbalah,
no.
and quantum science. So
right.
It's a really beautiful mix of esoteric science and our own esoteric science, quantum science. So, and it's all mushed up together, and out has come this amazing information.
There's there's a feeling of elegance there as you do describe that. So for the show notes, and you don't have to answer this now, we can email afterwards because I know you weren't expecting this, but are there any books that you might recommend for people if they want to get more interested in it, or is it better to really start with somebody who's been training for a long time and just get your chart done?
There are a few books out there, yeah, for sure. There's some that are very difficult to understand, but there's one in particular called Understanding Human Design. That's a very, very good book. That's by Karen Curry. And there's another one, just bear with me for a sec because I can't see. It's also very good, and it's called, sorry, this is making fabulous podcasting, isn't it? I do apologise.
No, it's fine. It's my fault. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this.
No, it's okay. It's called It's by Chetan Parker, and it's called that's CHETAN. Parkin, PARKYN, and it's called Human Design, Discover the Person You Were Born to Be.
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you. That's really good. I'll put those on the show notes as well. So anybody listening, come over to the free Facebook group afterwards if you want to have a further conversation about it. That's kind of where we hang out, and I can share some of the changes that I'm going to start playing with even more after what Roz told me just before we started on the podcast, since I've had my design done. And if you do take advantage of the free resources that Roz talks about, which I highly recommend, then we could compare notes in the Facebook group too. So thank you so much for being a guest today. It's absolutely fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know more, but thank you for coming on today.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. See you soon.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.